Alright folks, we are talking Avengers Endgame spoilers here, so warning, if you don't want to know what happens in the movie, activate your nanotech armor now and take off. So that's it. Tony Stark is dead, and that means Iron Man is also dead. And yet, there are plenty of characters who could conceivably take up the Iron mantle in future MCU movies. That includes characters from the comics, as well as a few that have the potential to become a replacement for Tony in the movies. Because the bottom line is the Marvel Cinematic Universe was founded on Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, and it's going to be weird to not have a hero who can step in for him, if not replace him. Let's look at our options. James Rhodes is already an Avenger and already has the suit of armor as War Machine, so he would seem to be a logical in-universe choice to take on the mantle of Iron Man and continue the good fight in memory of his best friend. After all, Captain America's friend Sam Wilson is set to now become the new Cap in Steve Rogers' wake. But having already appeared in 6 MCU movies, actor Don Cheadle may very well be done with the Rhodey character for now. And Marvel Studios may also be looking to move on beyond the core family of Iron Man characters for some fresh faces to take over. Speaking of which, Gwyneth Paltrow has been around since the very first Iron Man, and while the size of her role has diminished in recent years, her character Pepper has remained very important to Tony Stark all the same. Paltrow even returned in a big way in Endgame, having finally married Tony and had a child with him during the 5-year time jump. And in the final battle, she kicks in and helps with the specially designed armor Tony made for her. This is a callback to Pepper's comics counterpart, who has donned the armor and taken on the superhero name Rescue at times. But still, Marvel is probably ready to move on. Tony and Pepper's daughter in Endgame is Morgan Stark, and while she's 5 years old at most in the film, she does show some Iron Man proclivities, like making off with the helmet Tony was building for her mom. Then there's the fact that 13 Reasons Why star Catherine Langford was reportedly cast in an undisclosed role in Endgame that wound up on the cutting room floor. Speculation is that Langford was actually playing an older version of Morgan who Tony might have visited in the future, so who knows. But if Morgan were to, say, travel back in time to the present of the MCU and become the new Iron Man, Iron Woman, it would line up pretty neatly with other young heroes in the franchise, like Hawkeye's daughter, or Kate Bishop, and Cassie Lang, who was Stature in the comics. Both of those characters also belong to the Young Avengers on the page. Riri Williams is a character from the comics who has yet to appear in the movies. A teenage genius who built her own version of Iron Man's armor from scrap, she eventually became the hero known as Ironheart, complete with a Tony Stark AI to assist her in her adventures. Introducing Williams to the MCU as the new Iron Person would clearly be a new avenue for the series, giving the flagship character to a woman of color. And of course, if Stark AI is incorporated into the story, it would be a great way to bring back Robert Downey Jr. in a limited form. This is another comics character who has not shown up in the movies yet, but we could see how the pieces could fit together. A young version of the time-traveling Marvel villain Kang the Conqueror, Iron Lad was a member of the Young Avengers alongside Kate Bishop, Cassie Lang, and others. It would be quite a dramatic twist for a young Avenger to be revealed as the junior version of one of the Avengers' greatest villains. Additionally, after the character returned to the future, the Vision's operating system took over the armor, which, could work in the MCU too. So since we now have time travel as a thing in the MCU, and what's looking more and more like a world where the Young Avengers are going to exist, incorporating a version of this character into things would make sense. Lots of fans were scratching their heads when that one young dude was shown standing by himself at Tony Stark's memorial in Endgame. Of course, we now know that he was Harley Keener, the kid from Iron Man 3 who had a penchant for potato guns and was sort of Tony's sidekick in that film. Perhaps he decides to become Iron Man after being inspired by his former mentor at a young age. And if they don't go the Kang route with Iron Lad, then that's a name he could take up to differentiate himself from Tony. Black Panther's kid sister was one of the highlights of his solo film, and Shuri also happens to be a Stark-level genius with tons of gadgets and tech, a quick wit, and an instant fan base. So in many ways, you can see why some fans might want her to become Iron Shuri. But at the same time, wouldn't you rather see her keep doing her own unique thing? Love that girl. Well, who would you like to take on the mantle of Iron Man in the MCU? Or do you think it's a bad idea to try to recreate the magic of Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark? Discuss in the comments, folks. And don't forget to check out the Avengers Endgame review and our explainer on the ending. And as always, be sure to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.